That was a bonfire, you say. So over the weekend, the Navy-Army game was an exciting game, as they often are. One reporter, he opined that if you're going to play either one of those two teams, you're in for a rough night. They play disciplined. They play hard. And it's a shame that despite how exciting the game was, there was something in the stands that really made people even more uncomfortable. It was the fact that a bunch of midshipmen and cadets consistently flashed the white supremacy sign. Now, it's interesting because if you go to social media, you'll see any number of people trying to defend it, saying, oh, that means okay. Well, if it meant okay, then why were there so many people trying to slap their hands down? We like to believe that we're in a post-racial society. We believe that we have evolved, and I would be remiss if I didn't acknowledge that we have. But racism is not going to die because it is taught to young men like that. And these young men will serve in the military, and these young men will serve in corporate America, and some of them will go into the police department. It is disturbing because they learned it from somewhere. It is disturbing that there's such a nexus, seems to be such a nexus between our military, our law enforcement, and white supremacy. They seem to be very comfortable with each other. They seem to be very cozy. You could tell me right now that sign means okay. Well, maybe at one point it did. Just like the swastika it wasn't always a symbol of Nazi oppression. At one point it meant something entirely different, but it's been co-opted and perverted, so now you can't use it anymore. I defy you, even if the swastika didn't come from what the Nazis, they bastardized it, you still couldn't use it no more because it's been so bastardized, no one would even think to explain it. That is a symbol of white supremacy. Everybody knows what it is. And instead of acknowledging it, we try to excuse it away. Much like we're going to try to excuse their behavior. Or they were young. But they won't be young forever. They take those attitudes and those mentalities into whatever endeavor they get into. And oftentimes, it will be in a position to do something harmful to people of color. Today, on the news, there was breaking news that they found the mass grave of all the people that were murdered in the Tulsa riots. Today, 3 days ago, we're dealing with young people who are now very young people who are showing signs of white supremacy, which in essence caused the Tulsa riots. The more things change, the more they stay the same. That same mentality that they were flashing those fingers out of that game is that same mentality that got all those people slaughtered in Tulsa, Oklahoma. If we are going to change, we have to say what we see. And what we see is a disturbing trend of young white people going to the military and going to the our armed forces and becoming white supremacists, and everybody seems to be way too comfortable about it. That comfort gets people killed. It's not a coincidence that on Saturday we have an incident of white supremacy being nationally shown, and today we find the mass grave of people who were killed as a result of white supremacy. Racism cannot go away if we hide it. It cannot go away if we pretend like it doesn't exist. It can only go away if we acknowledge it. What we are is what we say we are. And those young men had no compunction about showing who they are. It was a nationally televised game. They wanted to see it. We've had incidences of policemen getting on planes and doing the same thing. Incidents of people in the Border Patrol doing the same thing. Our question is, I am very uncomfortable with seeing people in uniforms that's supposed to represent our law enforcement and the military flashing signs that show they have an allegiance to white supremacy. I am uncomfortable with us looking the other way. I think a lot of us are uncomfortable seeing those things. The question ultimately is, why aren't you? That's a little note from the GED section. We got the Jazz Report coming up in 15 minutes. It's the D.L. Hughley Show.